Here we are, here we are, here we are. All right, cool. Hi everyone. Good morning from our side of things. It is exactly 10 a.m. Eastern time. And I don't know where you're watching from, but if you're watching us from the Eastern Coast time, good morning. I think people from California are probably still sleeping, so we're probably not going to try to wake them up. But we are so privileged to have Vivian with us. Vivian is a big girl. You know how they say rolling with the big boys? So today I'm rolling with the big girls, like I kudos to Vivian. So you guys are so welcome. Thank you for joining us. For those who are joining from Africa, good afternoon, good evening. I know it's evening your time. I see people here waiting, like we're waiting, but here they are. So Vivian, without wasting much of your time, I know you got to run to so many different meetings. Please, you are welcome. Thanks you for sparing some time to join us this morning and to share your story with us, because I know these are the things that I love to share with our audiences. They inspire us, they inspire me. So I was like, hey Vivian, could you share your story with us as an immigrant, as a girl, as a woman, as a Ugandan, as a woman of color. So all those things, they empower this girl right here, this girl, this color. So without further ado, Vivian, please introduce yourself to us, and thank you so much for joining us again.
Well, Brenda, it's such an honor to finally get onto your show. I know this has been work in progress over time, a long time, but I'm
Mhm.
so excited that it's finally happened. I am Vivian Coxinger Birchall, born and raised in the hills of Kambuga in southwestern Uganda. I'm a proud mother of two biological children and one stepdaughter. So, in total, three girls. So I am all about fighting for the girls and the girl child. And I live in Massachusetts, in a little town called Acton. And yeah, that's pretty much me. And I obviously love Brenda.
Of course, you love me and I love you. Thank you so much, Vivian. Yes, girl child, girl child. You're like touching my heart right now. But yes, we appreciate you joining us, and we're going to be diving in. So Vivian, a girl from Uganda, southwestern Uganda. You guys who do not know Uganda, you need to visit Uganda. Southwestern Uganda is like the Switzerland of Africa, of Uganda. So it is very mountainous. It's green. People are so humble and loving. So much development has happened there. If maybe you last went there 20 years ago, it would not be the same right now. So forget what you've watched on TV. Jump on that plane. Go visit Uganda. Yes, Uganda. You see, it gives birth to amazing people. Look at us. Look at who's next to me.
Yeah,
This girl here, just a
yes.
brief background. She's been one of the best big sisters you ever have. Living in the diaspora, it can get lonely. It can get any person, a good person that you can get, you just have to grab onto them. Vivian has been that for me. She was introduced to me by another close friend of mine who was also a big sister, Rosette, in Texas. Rosette has seen me since I was 17 after high school. And she was like, hey, Brenda, you know what? I think you should meet Vivian virtually. We've never met in person. But if I met her today, it would just be like I've known her since I was a baby.
We need
Like
to fix
that's
that soon.
yeah, we need to fix that soon. So Vivian, where did you so how did you move from Uganda to the US, for those who might want to know that story?
Well, the move. Oh, one thing before I get into that, I just
Yeah.
wanted to let our viewers know that I am also currently running for state rep for 10th Middlesex District. That is a district in Massachusetts, and I hope that if you live in this district, that you can support my campaign. I want to say
Absolutely.
that before I forget. Um,
Yeah.
but back to the story of how I moved to the United States is I got married to an American who lived and worked in Hawaii, and so I lived in Hawaii as my first place of residence for 5 years. And then in the spring of 2016, I moved to Massachusetts. So Massachusetts is my first town and my first home on U.S. mainland. And so far, at first I was afraid of the cold, but I learned that with every situation you have to find creative ways of adapting. And so I adapted and I bundle up. I'm wearing about 10 layers, and that's so yeah, really, I moved here for marriage and to start a family.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I remember the first time you're like, Brenda, I think we're moving to the US from Hawaii. And I'm like, where are you moving to? She's like, Massachusetts. I'm like, grab your jackets.
Yes.
But things happen for a reason. Look at you now. You moved from Hawaii and now you're here in the US, in Massachusetts, and you're running for the big boy seat. So what inspired you? What inspired you to join this journey? Because when you first settled in Hawaii, you were not into politics, were you? What was your career like?
Actually, my interest goes beyond way before the United States. So my interest in policy and advocacy and activism has predates U.S. time. So when I was in Uganda, when I joined university, my career university, that I immediately joined the ACFORD, so Action for Development organization, and just to get experience and also to work with ladies that I admired the most, the Miriam Matembes, the
Winnie and
a few other ladies, Lydia Bakaki. So I decided, I was mentored by many women in ACFORD, and I became a trainer in legal and human rights based on CITO, and did a lot of research on women who are aspiring for political leadership and just advocating for women's rights. And after university, I joined the parliament, not as a legislator, but I worked for what's called the African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption. So that way, that gave me a kind of segue into government work.
Yeah.
So I learned to work with legislators. And after a couple of years, I moved to the National Planning Authority. So this gives you a line of working in policy and policy. So my heart has always been there, and my experience has also been in policy related. Even when I moved to Hawaii, I did actually work in kind of volunteer with local government, with the prosecuting attorney's office. So I did a lot of local government work, but in the prosecuting attorney's office, dealing with truancy, DV, criminal justice, and environmental courts. And one of them, I actually worked also on a cold case that led to a conviction. So, and when I moved to Massachusetts, I first worked with a nonprofit that was working with women who've experienced abuse. But after that, I joined the town working in the land use department. So again, back to policy, land use policy, building, planning, zoning, economic development, until end of 2020, when I decided to join Acton TV full time.
So, yeah.
And when this opportunity presented itself, and through my years here working here in the town, I interacted a lot with some of our local legislators, and so I used to, have conversations with them about issues that affect our town. And also that's part of what I do at Acton TV, just engaging the community. So when the opportunity presented itself, I said, well, I can be the new voice at the State House, because they don't have anybody who is a first generation immigrant from Africa. And I bring this global perspective to the local issues, and I'm hoping that can resonate with the voters.
Yeah. How has it been going so far? I mean, Acton is not, I don't know how many Black people are there, but as a Black immigrant, how has it been like for you? When you first moved, maybe first give us your first impression when you first moved there, actually.
Well, I wasn't sure what I would expect, but I am the kind of person who does not try. I try so hard to not let the color of my skin deter me from,
Absolutely.
from just trying to get to know what's going on in my new community
Mm-hmm.
and get connected, because it's all about building relationships. So at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, when we have our color of the skins might be different, and yes, we recognize there is racial bias and sometimes, and not sometimes, structures that encourage racism or racist behavior or racist practices.
Yeah.
But the fact that that's there doesn't mean that we can't build relationships to break down those barriers. And so I have focused on that ever since I moved here. And I just build relationships with individuals, because at the end of the day, we're all chasing this American dream. And I
Absolutely.
think that's what has also been helpful as I run for office, because as you pointed out, there are not many African community families in
Mm-hmm.
just in the district that I'm running. But the majority of supporters are certainly, or voters are going to be non-Black people. So
Yeah,
it's through
absolutely. Yeah.
building these partnerships and relationships that we can make it happen.
Yes, 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 yes. We just recently celebrated Martin Luther King Jr.'s, day, and I was chatting with my son, and he's like telling me all these things about what he kind of means to him, as a Black child, and most people forget that, yes, like my son, your kids are biracial, but in the books of America, they are Black children.
The one drop rule.
Yes, yes, Andrew Pearl. They are Black kids. So absolutely, he was like, I liked that he was very courageous. Like just hearing him tell me like all these things that I already know about the amazing Martin Luther King Jr. Um, just like hit home for me. Like he's like how he stood up for the Black folks and.
Now, let me tell you, my dear sister, 3 days ago, my
Yeah.
little one, 7 years old, came up to me. I was dressing to get work, and she was getting ready to go to school. I said, "Mommy, I have a story about uh, Rosa Parks." No, no, she didn't say a story. She's like, "Mommy, Rosa Parks, she was very brave." And I said, "Okay, are you learning about Rosa Parks?" She's like, "No, I have a book." And I said, "Where did you get the book?" She said, "I borrowed it." And then I pried father and asked her, where she learned about Rosa Parks from. And she said she watched a PBS show about Rosa Parks. And,
Yes.
and then I asked whether she had learned, whether she'd been taught in school. She said, yeah, we also learned about it in school, but the first time I heard it was at PBS Kids. Then I asked her to tell me the story of Rosa Parks in her own words. And then she said, well, I know some parents used not to let their children play with her because she was Black. And she also said, refused to give up her seat on a train. And I said, was it a train? She said, no, 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 a bus. I said, okay. And she refused to give it up because it was not fair. The other person needed to treat her the way she was treating him, with respect. And I'm like, okay, so what do you learn from that story? And she said that regardless of how unfair the world is, you need to stand tall. And that was the end of her. And then she said, you need to stand tall.
Tall, like and she probably just walks away. Oh
And
my
that gave
gosh.
me so much pride, in our
Absolutely.
children, that they can still value who they are and even teach us, the adults, or
Yeah,
remind us of the values and that we need to live by. So,
that's amazing. Yes, yeah, it gives you that pride to see
yeah.
that, it's not even something you're teaching your kids, but they're actually going out and reading books themselves. So well, there's sometimes it's good on watching TV, not always the bad things.
And this is
Um,
7 years old.
7 years old, that's impressive. That young girl is up to something, tell you what. But the apple doesn't fall from far from the tree. So all right, so I mean let's just quick just like a commercial break so Vivian can drink some of her tea quickly. Just shout out to people who have joined us. Hi Esperia, thank you so much for joining us. She's in Uganda. Kisembo Business, he's also in Uganda. Nice to see you. Mesolwega, he's in Thailand. I had to wake up for this one. I'm again you are fit to you. To Sanyuse Okumuleva. Kale Sebo. Oh my gosh. Let's see. This is Africa. This is American. This is Africa. I wish you lived on the East Coast. You would definitely go vote for Vivian, because I know you stand for what she stands for as well. Let's see here. It's very nice to see Ugandans doing great. Yes, we're keeping our flag high. Everywhere we go, we carry Uganda with us. It's a brand that you can't get away from. And we're super proud to be Ugandans. That's why we hold ourselves with high integrity wherever we do and wherever we go. So proud of you, my people. This one is actually in the US. I don't know which state. Simon says, hey, today the English is so solid, Stace. You funny, Simon. Okay, so Kenyan by marriage, KBM. So you said you might have issues later being harassed by a group who calls themselves ADOS. Because you're going for this seat, they will blame you for taking the job from them. I think America is actually, I would say, in the many years I've lived in the US, I have learned that almost 98% of people who are here are immigrants. Find me a pure American, even those who were born and raised in America, yes, who qualify to be Americans. The grandparents came from somewhere. Grandparents came from somewhere. You find Italians, you find Spanish, from whatever. So America, United States of America is United States of the world in my world. It's a whole bunch of people from all walks of life. Let's see here. Kids of nowadays are sharper. Yes, they are. They are very sharp. Lillian, I don't know what you're saying. All right, guys. All right, so cool. Let's go back to it. Thank you so much, everybody who's joined in. If you have any questions for Vivian, she's right here in the studio with us. You guys can definitely ask them in the comments right there, and she'll be able to answer them if she can. She's a political girl, so if it's something provoking she won't answer you, I'll tell you that. Or anything that can be kept on record to be used against her in the future, she'll not answer that. So as you answer those, ask those questions, keep them civil, and let's keep moving. So Vivian, what is one thing you could tell immigrants, especially people who have just maybe come to the United States, and they're looking at how West Virginia, that's what he meant. Okay, cool. WV, I was like, what? Where is that? Okay, West Virginia. What is one encouragement you could give to fellow immigrants?
One, that when we move to a foreign land, that we should not give up our dreams. Whatever we wanted to, whatever we've always dreamed of doing, we can still do. And once we hold on to that dream, it's very easy to find a pathway toward it. And it's easy, through the daily hustles to forget about ourselves and who we are. But the advice I'll try to give is to not forget who we are and what we want to go for, and try as much as possible. There are many detours in life, but as we detour, to find ways back to the path that we want for ourselves.
I think
and of course, to believe in God.
Yeah, absolutely. And I keep telling people, you hold the key to your own success most of the times. So, I mean, yes, it might be like, you look at what Vivian is doing right now, you're like, oh my gosh, how, most of us who maybe have just come to the United States are looking at it like this is a predominantly a white country, and running for a seat, you're like, oh my gosh, and all the things that maybe you've watched, you've read about, like the successful African Americans in such seats is kind of close to impossible in most cases. The state she's in, Massachusetts, I mean, I would say maybe what's like the population like there when you think of blacks and whites, Vivian?
I don't have the statistics off of my head, but
Yeah,
I'm tempted to say we might be about 10% of our population, but I could be wrong, obviously. So I
yeah,
don't have the stats right now, right off my head.
yeah.
But it's an emerging and also surprisingly in the recent data, census data, the population of blacks was dropping.
Mm.
And that could be because of the cost of living in
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
yeah.
So
Most
we're
people are
moving
moving out
south.
to the other coast. Yeah.
Right. So, which is again something that when I talked about earlier, how best to create relations with all races. We have an emerging Asian community in
Mhm.
Massachusetts. So I am, you know, I'm
Yeah, I
very
see you there. I see you there mingling. Yes,
yeah.
and
So
so proud of you.
they are also part of they share some of the struggles that African immigrants face because immigration cuts across. 'Cause if we have say language barrier, the Asians have the similar challenges. So how it's
Yeah.
very important to understand that other groups of people
Yes.
who recognize the struggles they're going through and work collaboratively together to find a
Yeah.
way forward. Yeah.
Okay. Asperia has a question here. Now, Vivian Sweet, now how did you make it? Like there is much intimidation in the world, especially when you're an African living in Buzungu. What motivated you? That's a good one for any girl who's out there.
Right. That's a great question. Thanks for asking. I think what motivated me is believing in myself and believing in the value that I could bring to the legislature in Massachusetts, to
Mhm.
that our community development, because it's through believing in myself and my ability that I was able to put myself out there and say, "Hey guys, I am here. I want to be a new voice, and I want to be a voice that lifts up everyone in the community." And that's it. And I went for it.
Seriously, she did. She did show her. She's like, I think I'm gonna join. I'm like, what? What are you
No,
doing?
because it's through, oftentimes it's through self-doubt,
Yes.
thinking we're not going to be accepted that holds
Hmm.
us back. But
Hmm.
once we believe in ourselves and our abilities to contribute, then I think we break that barrier and that stigma and just go for it. I mean, what could be worse? People saying no. I mean, we get no from every parts of everything we do.
Yeah.
Could
Yeah.
be even if we are selling crafts, someone might say, I don't like that one. So that
Hmm.
the fear of failure oftentimes holds us back.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I decided as an individual to go beyond fearing failure. So I don't let the fear of failure get in my way. I'll give it my best and hope for the best. And but if it does, yeah, and just hope for the best.
Yeah. 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 You don't cross over to the what if it doesn't work? No, no, no. You go until you get there. If it happens, it happens. It doesn't. Yeah. So you wait until you cross that bridge, and then you're like, all right, I tried. I did it. I did it.
Yeah,
And
better than not trying for
yeah,
certain.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I mean, I was born. My childhood was really lacking. We didn't have much, so I've hustled through life, and there is very little in life that intimidates me right now because I've
Mhm,
gone through
mhm,
the worst.
mhm, 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 mhm.
Yeah.
For some of you who are just joining, Vivian is originally from Uganda. She introduced herself earlier, in case you're wondering where she's actually from. She's Ugandan and now American. She was born and raised in southwestern Uganda, the hills of Kabale. No, is it
No,
Kabale actually?
Kanungu.
Kanungu. That's even past Kabale
Initially,
now.
it was Rukunjiri, but then with the redistricting so we became part of Kanungu. But we're just on the border of Rukunjiri and Kanungu. But it's called
Yeah.
Kambuga,
Kambuga,
my
Kambuga,
village.
Kambuga,
And
yeah.
I went to Nyachbare Girls Secondary School in Rukunjiri. So that is Immaculate Heart Girls School.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what molded the Vivian that I am today, with
They did
Sister
a good
Magoba,
job.
who was my headmistress, and my primary
Yeah.
was Kitante, secondary Nyachivadi. I was in Zambia for 1 year, then my dad died, then I went to Nyachivadi, and
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm,
so.
mhm, mhm. So, okay, now we're shifting to the mother part of things. I know living in America as a when you have kids, how and then work, and now you are putting on another crazy hat of being in politics. How are you juggling life, Vivian? Tell us, because I feel like I'm failing every day. So, how are you doing it?
Well, that's again another great question. I don't know.
You don't. Now you sounded like
No,
Oprah.
but
I
uh,
don't know.
it's sometimes it's I take it one day at a time,
Mhm.
but certainly wouldn't have done this without the support of my husband, um,
Yes.
who has stepped in, and my mother. But before my mother was here, it was extremely hard, and I was forced out of the workforce um, when I had just moved to Massachusetts because I couldn't
Yeah.
afford childcare.
Yeah.
And it's a real reason. But what I decided to do, I became creative about it, because being thrown out of the workforce, I didn't want it to be an impediment to my progress. So that's why I created a TV show, so
Yeah.
that as much as I'm not working, but I'm still engaging and work, in conversations about the things I
Culture,
eventually
things
want
that
to
you,
work
yeah.
with. So it started as a culture show about
Hmm.
Uganda, and you
Yeah.
know about that. I started it with faith, zero experience, but with the will and faith. And it evolves into talking about the diaspora, spotlighting and profiling people in the African diaspora, and then
Hmm.
evolved further into the U.S. Africa relationships. At some point, I partnered with the State Department to give us some information about, the updates on U.S. Africa policy. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was tough to balance. And right now, again, my husband does a lot of heavy lifting,
Hmm.
because I am on,
On
my
the road.
schedule is out of order. But I also intentionally make time for my children. Like Friday evenings, I like to make movie time. So last night, I made sure I got home at 8 p.m., but I made sure that I have that movie time with my girls, so that, you know, it's not completely out of balance, because at the end of the day, family is more important. So I hold on to that very dearly whenever I can.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, because I mean, yes, it's a hard road out there. Because if you have kids, you have a job, you have it just becomes too much. And I know most people burn out. So I'm glad you have the great support system, which everybody needs really in the diaspora here. I love it when great women like you, Vivian. I know you will do more to make us proud as a country. Yes, 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 yes. She is already doing that stuff. When I tell you I'm proud of her, just take it from me. I'm super proud of her. She's also the best cheerleader you can ever have as a big sister. But all the time she'll be like checking on me, and she's like, "Hey, Kakazi, like what's happening? Are you okay? This and that." So she's amazing. I know for sure she's very passionate about the core fundamentals that she's looking to add onto state of Massachusetts. And I pray and hope that people actually see those beyond anything else, see your ambitions and what you actually stand for and what you're looking to bring in as change. Maybe you could actually throw some light there. What are your goals, Vivian, as a contesting state representative? What are you looking to bring to the table?
Thanks again for the great question and compliments. I want to say that it's two-way, Brenda. I reach out to you because you're so dear, and I admire your work, your passion, commitment, and that's what we all need: the passion and commitment and consistency, because that gets us where we are. And also your passion for reaching out and connecting communities. That is one thing that drives me every single day: the need to connect communities. And also this is something that I hope to bring
Mm-hmm.
to the state house, because there is we can do more when we stay
Mm-hmm.
connected. And at certain times, people who are not in positions of power, we feel disconnected to the system that is supposed to support us. So that's something that I hope to change. as a legislator to provide a bridge between the legislature and the people that I represent. And what I tell people is that legislations will change every, today we're pushing for immigration reform, another time it's another legislation, but then the values should never change. So what I bring to this position is the values I come with to serve the people, to support immigrants, so that it's easy for us to access, for example, driver's permits, navigate the healthcare system, make sure that we have access to voting, those who are eligible, and make voting very accessible and easy. Work on supporting small businesses. I understand that our African immigrant community and other immigrant communities have many small businesses, whether it's healthcare, home care, small shops, crafts, whatever small business there is, cleaning services. So I want to be the person who provides that voice for these small businesses or business owners. And of course, we live in a time where everyone is concerned about our climate. So I will be certainly pushing for legislation that will sustain the world that we live in by fighting climate change. And education. We all have young children. We want to provide funding for our young our public schools, and also to make college education affordable. So I will be pushing for debt-free college. Any legislation that will advance debt-free college is something that I'll certainly be on top of my radar, and I will be.
That's a tough one, but yes.
Yes, I know it's tough, but yeah, debt-free doesn't mean that, we're going to break this. We live in a very rich, resourceful state that only takes the will. So we can maybe figure out where we're duplicating resources and save some resources that can be put toward other things. So that's some of the things.
Yeah. I mean, those are great. Like all of them. I wish I wish there's a change every single day on these things. The climate and college education. We have so many. Like if you read about, like you do some research on how many people actually drop out of school, like how many, like people look at America and they assume that most people actually went to college. There's a huge population of high school dropouts. Because college loans are very high, they're expensive. People who go for like really great degrees, careers like doctors and stuff, they pay a lot of money, and some of these are still paying school loans the date even 10 years after graduation. So it's not a simple thing. So I mean, that will be huge. It will increase our kids being able to finish school at least.
Right. And the other thing that I want to fight for in terms of education is for us to allocate funding to vocational training, because not everyone goes to college, and not everyone wants to go to college. And we have many, we have a workforce need for trade jobs like electricians, plumbers. So and oftentimes we ignore that kind of education. I want to put it back to the forefront, because there is a group of people out there who need that education. So if you can fund it, that'll be amazing. That'll be great. And so, yes, it will be not just college, but the trades as well.
Awesome.
Vocational training.
Yeah. I mean, those are all great. They're great, and fingers crossed. But if anybody else is there in other states, I think you can borrow a leaf on these, because these are really needed in every state in the United States.
Right.
So in every community, we need these things. Schools are just expensive. Healthcare is just expensive.
Housing. Oh my goodness. We have a housing crisis.
Is just a nightmare right now.
I don't know how I forgot to mention that, but yeah, housing is one of the things that I'll be fighting for, to increase affordable housing stock in Massachusetts and in the district that I will be representing. So, yeah, I know that I don't know whether you were going to ask that, but somebody in the questions had asked what ways they can support. One,
Yes, yes, yes. Let
spread
me
the
see.
word.
Where is it?
Spread the word
Um,
about the campaign. And two, you can donate to my campaign through, you just go to vivianbirchall.com. That's the website. And there is a
yes.
link to where you can afford, because all campaigns unfortunately have to be run by money, because we need to print stuff. We need to, t-shirts, whatever material that is used. So,
Mhm.
and join, volunteer. If you live in Massachusetts, come help us knock on doors. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, those are
Did
some
I
of
tell you I campaigned for Obama?
No, I didn't know that.
I think that was like my third year here, and I didn't have a job. I was like, you know what? I can just volunteer. So I went door to door in the streets of Philadelphia,
Oh,
looking for votes for Barack Obama. And it was one of the most amazing times of my life. Like, so it gives you that joy being part of the journey,
right.
yeah, and then you see it succeed. So please, if you're out there and you're in Massachusetts, I'll put all Vivian's details, like her website and how you can actually donate in the description of this video when we're done. You guys can reach out, like $10, $5, all those things go a long way.
Thank
We need to support our girl, not just by, words saying her good luck, but these campaigns actually need money. So as you can tell, she's spending most of her time running around in these campaigns. So any help will be very, very appreciated.
thank you,
Let's see
Brenda.
here. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that you only have to be a citizen or permanent resident to give money. Otherwise,
Yes. Oh, yes.
the
Oh,
law.
yes. Oh, yes. That's true. That's true.
No Ugandan.
No Ugandan. No Ugandan. You can send it to me. I'll send it to her.
No, that's again. That's
That's not
not
acceptable. I don't
on
want to put you in
camera.
trouble.
No, you cannot do that. That
You
violates
can.
finance code. So only you, Brenda, can.
Only me can, absolutely. I hear you. I hear you, Chikaz. I don't want to put your butt in trouble. No, yeah, Brenda, you're drinking. It's not even milk. It's black tea. Can you see that? It's black tea, but it's just complaining. And hey, Harry. I know you're in the islands. So he's a Kenyan, but he's actually going to school to be a medical doctor. So kudos to you, brother. Hey Harry, that's okay BM here. Back, and I remember both Oregon and Tennessee have free community college programs for qualified students. Yes. So how does that work actually, Vivian? Do you have an idea?
In Massachusetts, no,
Mhm.
we have community colleges. So
Yeah.
of course the amount is not as crazy as
Mhm.
the other private institutions. But yeah, I don't know of the free component.
Yeah, I think the free component, like how it's like scholarships, like you can also get scholarships and things like
Yes.
that.
Mm.
Or if you have higher GPA, I don't know what they call them, but you can definitely, that the community colleges that will pick some students to fully fund their college fees.
Right. And
Um,
that's one of the things that I said when I fight for
mhm,
one of the things is free college, so that
mhm, mhm, mhm.
we can imitate some of the states that have that.
That have that, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, especially Massachusetts is a huge state,
Yeah.
and I think that will be very, very helpful.
Mhm.
Okay, so one last question, I know we gotta run. What You talked about, like being a voice for the women, and this is something that you've actually been doing since you started your career, like how many years ago? So what do you see, or what do you think, a girl child out there, what can you advocate for them more, and how can we deliver to the girl child?
One, again, making education accessible to all children, especially the girl child
Mhm.
um, who historically has had to struggle in education, especially science education,
Mhm. Mhm.
STEM subjects. And then one of the things that I want to push for is to make female hygiene products free for girls in schools, because that's an area that has a lot of stigma for the girl child.
Yeah.
So as a legislator, I would want to uh, make sure that we mandate all schools to have free female hygiene products for the girls, so that when they get those accidents, they have a way to not feel so ashamed. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
So, I mean, those
and
could
also,
be
just
like,
in addition, not just for girls but for all children, to support special education,
mm-hmm.
because this
Mm-hmm.
is an area where that is often forgotten. There are
Yeah.
kids that need that extra help.
So
So
there
I
you mean like the special needs
yeah,
and yeah, yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah, having more schools and even being able to get like real, fundamental cores of education as well. Getting, great teachers, just like any other students, like any other kids in other schools.
Right.
Um, all right. So how was it for you working with the UN?
I didn't really work for the UN.
I thought UNDP is then that no, isn't
No,
it?
no. I worked for the for National Planning Authority, but we worked on an African Union program.
Oh, African Union
The only
program.
time I did, but we partnered, of course, with UNDP,
Mm-hmm.
African Development Bank, Danida, which is the Danish one,
Yeah.
JTZ. But when I also moved when I was in Massachusetts, I was a panelist at a UN meeting on
Okay.
immigration,
Mm-hmm.
South, how to make uh, the role of the diaspora in improving the South-South cooperation. That's just part of the Global Compact for Migration that
Mm-hmm.
that the UN was trying to put together. So I was invited by the International Organization for Migration Office at the UN to be a speaker, to talk about the role that diaspora can play. So
Mm.
that was in 2018, I
That
believe,
was a good
or
one.
2019.
Yes, I remember those pictures, I believe.
Yes. So,
That was,
but I've always wanted to be to work in the. When I was in Uganda, my dream was to be a Secretary General of the UN. So
I think you can still do it. You can
first, I
still
need to
do it.
be a representative. But goals change a little bit, because now I have a home here, I have a family here, and I want to
Yeah.
be to represent the people that I live with, the community that I
Yes.
live with. So I want to partner with everyone in our community to make it a livable place that promotes
Mm-hmm.
dignity of everyone in the
Mm-hmm.
towns.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so guys, again, thank you so much for joining us. We all gotta run. I wanted to keep this at 30 minutes tops because Vivian has a heavy schedule, as you can imagine. She has another meeting coming up, and but I wanted us to be able to interact with her, see how she's doing it, encourage somebody out there, a Brenda who might be thinking, you know what, I think I should, start running for something in my community.
Yes,
And
yes, do it, do it, do it.
so I want to excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God, let's, my dear Brenda. That is okay. I will still encourage you as you recover from that. Please run for office. And this is something that I also want to tell everyone who is watching. Never, don't be afraid to run for something, as even if it's as small as, it's as uh, not as complex as state rep, but school committee, select board, planning board, whatever office that you can have in your district, because your voice is the one that makes a difference at a local level. That's how decisions are made. And if we don't stand up to be that voice for people who look like us, then we are losing an opportunity. So go for it, Brenda.
I might. I'll be calling you to ask for tips and what's happening. But yes, I think it's something that we can all do. Everybody can do it. So you just have to get the courage to stand up and actually walk. Secretary General of the UN, your dream is still valid. I'm telling you, she could even be the next president. So
I can't be a president. I was not born in the United States.
oh gosh, yeah. Those things could change eventually. There's nothing that is fixed. we are the people. We are the power. we can change some rules here and there in the constitution, but no.
Yeah, let's first make voting available to everyone who is eligible.
Yeah. So what is one thing, I mean, we have so many immigrants, for example. I don't know if that's like one of the goals you might have. We have so many African immigrants or any other immigrants actually, some have lived here for 20 plus years, and the process to getting the citizenship is still a hassle. So I mean, what could your voice do towards changing some of those laws, or working with other representatives in the House to see if those could be changed? I mean, a person has lived here for 10 plus years. They're working, they're paying taxes, I'm assuming. So what do you say?
Thanks again for that question. So one of the things that we need to differentiate is what you're asking for can only be done at the federal level. So there are changes that can only be made at a federal level, which are the kind of immigration reforms that you're looking for. So at a state level, what can be done is, for example, easing the life of immigrants. How we can work on making driver's licenses easy to be
obtained,
by people who are still doing certain levels of paperwork, immigration paperwork, so that they can easily go back and from work easily. As it is, sometimes it's very difficult if you don't have certain paperwork to get even a driver's license. So, and also we can make it in a way that it's not easy for. Yeah, we can make the life of an immigrant. They can have access to healthcare. We know how it can be challenging to be covered by healthcare if you don't have.
Yeah.
So and then in terms of changing the legislation, the processes for becoming a citizen, that can be done by
the legal part. Federal level. Yeah, I know, but so I like what you said, like on state level, or things like other things that can ease the life of an immigrant before they fully get their paperwork. Access maybe to social security number, like being able to work, or even work, because we know how it goes. People struggle to actually be able to get jobs, and then another part that I really concerned about in the United States, and as we raise kids, is drug use.
Oh yeah.
So drug addiction. I walk down the streets of Philadelphia and you just want to cry. And then, of course, some of them are younger people, out of college students. What is the one thing that, as a community, like in your community, that you could see maybe, pushing more about drug use and how people can get maybe, what is it, like the care they need, the counseling that they need.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have these amazing questions. One of the things that, which is great, the drug use kind of ties into mental health as well.
Yeah.
So they go hand in hand. And one of the biggest pushes that I would want to do as a legislator is a push for mental health services, access to broader mental health services, because without them, we have many people who are falling through the cracks, and we are ending up losing people's lives, And also when it comes to police reform, because sometimes crimes that are committed as a result of people being on drugs and all that, they end up into the system. So
yes,
we are kind of working. I will be supporting police reform that focuses on rehabilitation, and I'm proud to work in a town where the police department has just hired a clinical responder to respond to mental health challenges. And so it also is part of the rehabilitation program. So this is, I think, something that could work, that would work. It keeps our youth out of jails, but also provides the pathway for rehabilitation and education. At the same time, the mental health services will also hopefully have a component of education, so that and of course, fight the opioid crisis by partnering with the experts who are already doing the job.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. Yes, Vivian. You just mentioned, the police and all that stuff, and it kind of like brought another thing in my mind.
Oh dear.
No. These are like issues, like these are concerns at not just like as an immigrant, but just like a citizen of the United States.
Especially one with black boys.
And black boys, yes. Gun possession, yes. So the whole gun possession issue, I mean, and some of these things I actually believe they have to be tackled on the community level.
Mhm.
I believe actually what people forget, like I love like the upbringing of like how we were brought up, like back home. Like communities were a big influence of what a child ends up being.
Yep.
So those are some of the things that I find lacking here.
Mhm.
Because everybody's busy, everybody has jobs, everybody has, so they're all onto their own thing, like my life, my family. So, but like what I love about, like when you have these communities that have different people from different walks of lives, I feel like the community could actually save some of these kids, let's say on the streets, who might be playing, like they watch out for the kids, or they could find community programs that might help, like the youth to fully be engaged. There's actually things that I think about. Now it's making me want to do something for my community.
Go for it, Brenda. Don't just procrastinate. Pull those papers and run for office and do something. Don't just talk about it. See,
so the whole issue of gun possession, what would be done on community level, you think?
At a community level, so what I can share what
Or state level? I don't know. I mean, like all these things go up federal level, but
I can share what like the community I live in.
yeah.
I'm a part of an organization called the Acton Boxborough United Way,
Mhm.
and we partnered with the police department in my town, and in a program where people were asked, those who own guns that they didn't need anymore,
Mhm.
to just give them back, or give them to the police department, so that it's like disposing away of guns that they didn't need in their homes without judgment. You just drop it there, and
Mhm.
the police departments collected them, and you know did whatever they wanted, they could with them, to keep them away from. So that was less guns in the households. So I think that's something that could be rolled out in all towns if they're not already doing it, because it's judgment free.
Yeah.
It's taking, some guns out of it, because we've seen many people whose children have accidentally shot somebody, or
Yes,
been trapped
inside
in
the
the house
household.
and died inside the household. So gun safety is certainly a concern of mine. I remember one time there was a meeting in my town when I had just moved here, and I testified, to kind of for the town to, maybe the state to find a way of promoting some kind of gun control, because and then background checks is important, to make sure that people who are having mental health challenges are not owning guns. It's not, and I know that people who own guns kind of fear, or they've been misled to think that gun control means they're taking away their guns. No, it's
Mhm.
it's asking the the vigilance of making sure that people who have a history of mental health challenges or are currently experiencing mental health challenges do not own guns, because it's through that they end up committing crimes against other people, and people are losing lives. So I certainly am in support of strong background checks.
Yeah, strong background checks, absolutely. Even like things to do with strong background checks and aware that this person is going to buy a gun, what has been their mental health in the past, maybe how many years, criminal records on them, things like that, for sure. Okay, one last one, we can't fail to talk about this. We can't. So Vivian and I have Black kids. We live in the United States. What do you teach your children, or what could you advise for the in your communities? Like, what could we do in our communities to make sure that our children, I don't care what people call me, it's fine, I'm grown, I'll be gone in how many years, I don't know, but these are things that we want to change for our children, for our young families. Racism in America. For our children, what could communities do? One of the things that I would say, I have been thinking of actually talking to like the school districts in my communities. There's a time I wrote to the principal of elementary school, and I said, hey, I'm available if you need me as an African, for example, African, to come in and have like a talk with some of the classes. Like tell them about Africa, like this is a predominantly white community. I think in our elementary school, which goes up to 6th grade, we have about 4 Black kids in the whole entire school. So so how could they get to know straight away from a Black person talking to the kids and telling them how maybe the history of some countries in Africa, or how any questions that they might have about different races. So he got back to me and he said they'll think about it, and maybe it might be time to again write to him. And
how long ago was that? 2 years?
Was 2 years ago.
See, just a guess. A wild guess.
2 years ago. I love that they teach them things about Martin Luther King, like, they have like this special Black Day, whatever, Black History Month. But it's hard to see that most schools in like such neighborhoods do not even have a Black teacher. So how are they, like, what can we do to make our presence seen? Or I don't know, I'm even failing to get words. What could we do? What could we teach our children? What could we teach our communities to start looking at our kids different, like the same as their kids?
Well, my dear sister, this is a loaded question. Very loaded, but I'll give it a shot. Okay. Racial justice and education about racism and bringing up children who are considered Black are 3 big things.
Yeah.
Just like you mentioned, I have biracial children. They struggle with their identity sometimes. They're not white. They're not Black like their mother, but they are considered Black. And when there is a battle between the white and Black, their tendency is to protect their mother, which means they have, it's complex. But here's, when you're talking about what do we do? I'll start with that.
Yeah.
As a parent, we need to have these open conversations with our children, because it's the only way that we're going to give them an avenue to talk about their feelings and to understand where they are mentally regarding racial injustice and racism. So what I did, when my youngest was 5 and the other one was about 7, again, it goes back to my work with the community. I work with the United Way, back to
Mm-hmm.
the United Way. We had a racial justice event. We call it Chalk the Walk, where it's a community awareness and informational uh, and community engagement event.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the activities was Chalk the Walk was to write, get a piece of chalk and draw on some of the streets. We got one business street in Acton and write just messages, anti-racist messages, or just community building messages to end racism. So I put my kids in the car and I said, we're going to be a part of this activity, and I want you to just, I didn't say anything about racism or Black Lives Matter or anything. I just said
Mm-hmm.
to talk about how people treating each other well,
Mm-hmm.
and keeping treating each other with respect.
Yes.
Do you understand the things? They said yes. So I gave them the pieces of chalk, and each of them started drawing. I walked away. When I came back, my little one had started, she had drawn an image of a Black woman who I
Mm-hmm.
got to know was me. And she wrote a bubble. No, she made a bubble and,
Yeah.
and asked me to spell Black Lives Matter. And I said, I was curious. I was thrown back. I'm like, why Black Lives Matter? She said, just because I know Black Lives Matter. Then I said, okay, yeah, it can be shortened as BLM. And
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
she wrote BLM. And then next to it, she put, I love you, mommy. And then I asked her, what does Black Lives Matter to you? I mean, what does it mean to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
She said, I saw the police officer, what he did. I had protected my kids, or I thought I had, from those images. So I have no idea when she saw that. Yeah, I know about the police officer, and I was so I then that's when I knew I had to talk to her. So I told her the oldest just drew a globe with different
Mm-hmm.
figures of different skin color, uh,
Mm-hmm.
holding hands. So for unity. So I started talking to them about what they felt about Black lives, and it was an open conversation, and I told it was also my opportunity to teach them that to give them hope, and said,
Yeah.
well, not everyone is like that. Those are just people who do those mean things are the ones whose mamas didn't chopper them. That's what I said. But
Right.
just in order for them to kind of to make it a little comic, but
Yeah.
to approach this heavy conversation with some light. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, if their mamas had gotten a chopper, then they would have good behaviors and they'll treat others well, And they're like, okay. So I'm like, you better not treat people like that with it. And of course we can't, mommy. So, and then again, Rosa Parks, I told you the story already. I can't say it again, but yeah, it's a tough conversation. And then when it comes to our schools,
Mm-hmm.
yesterday I was having a conversation. I was making I made a call because I need to have fundraising calls. And the first person, the first question I was asked is, are you supporting critical race theory? And I said, what does that mean? Oh, people being taught about racism. So why am I saying this? We are dealing with also part of a community where people don't want their children to learn about the history of racism.
Right. 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 Mm-hmm.
So how do we deal with this? By teaching our own children and hoping that they can. But we also have to support. There is a group of people in Massachusetts who have what they call the CARE bill, is to
Mm-hmm.
teach anti-racism or racist history in our schools. And I'm certainly supporting that bill. And just history, teaching the history. And
Yes.
I don't know why people are so afraid of the history, because of learning that history, because it's through learning that we hope that we don't make the same mistakes,
Exactly.
and also promote different ways of inclusion, and of
Mm-hmm.
not just the African kids but also the Asian kids, the Indian
Mm-hmm.
kids, every kid, so that it's a very inclusive environment. And certainly that's on the top of my radar, to look at every legislation with an equity lens, with an inclusion lens. So that, because, and even if it means at local levels, we have exclusionary, zoning laws. How can we change them so that the housing is not exclusionary for?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a big one.
Yeah, so that we can accept, um, very inclusive low-income housing in our neighborhoods, because we know that most people with many people with low incomes are people of color. So, and because they want to, if we want them as teachers, as cleaners, can we also accept them as people who live as our neighbors? Those are things that we need to continue having conversations about, so that we point out uh, the hypocrisies that sometimes we human beings have, and try to end this kind of practice, just not only for us, but for our children and grandchildren.
Absolutely.
Sorry, it was a long question.
I know, but it's so crucial. And seriously, you said it to the notes. Like, we can be the voice. So I like that you're doing it even more on a public level now, Vivian. So kudos to you. You've challenged us. But we are learning, and don't get tired. I believe you stand for the best goals that you have on paper right there. And whatever happens later, do not give up.
No, giving up has never been in my.
It has never been in.
I'm not about to say no.
Yeah, we keep moving, right? We keep moving.
Yeah, and most important, really, and maybe before we close, I just wanted to point out that oftentimes when not oftentimes, but sometimes people think, okay, when it's a person of color running, then maybe they're only representing that group. And I'm here to say no. I represent everyone. It's just that I'm bringing a voice that has historically been left out, but it also represents other voices. Because if we see what even the Black voter themselves, they have continued lifting this country up, providing that critical vote to get the right people in elections. And we need to continue just this trend and have different voices. Diversity really enriches our systems and brings about the change that we need, the positive change for everyone in the community, so that we can. And here I'll end with the kind of the quote that I like to use, that a rising tide lifts all boats, and I'm the rising tide who is ready to work and lift all boats.
And yes, you are, ma'am. All right, guys. Thank you again so much, Vivian, for your time. All the best. We'll be in touch. We'll be going down there to give our donation to support the campaigns, and we'll be passing, the basket by. Who is a cowboy?
Like
we'll be passing that basket around. Whoever has 2 cents, 5 cents, that money adds up. But again, to our viewers, thank you so much. If you're looking for a way of supporting Vivian's campaign, Vivian's dreams, not actually just Vivian's dreams, our dreams. So please, we'll put the description. We'll put all the details in the description below. Reach out to me if you have any more questions about Vivian's standing or anything else. If I can answer it, I will. If I don't, I'll contact her. She'll answer, and then I'll give you the answer. Otherwise, she's very soon. We might not even get a hold of her, but I'll be bringing this shirt so you can sign it.
No, thank you. And in the summer when it's warmer, come down here. Let's knock on doors.
Yes. I will be there. I'll be there, Vivian. Yes, I will come. I'll come. Now this gives me like a weekend, and we can just do it together. Kala Chikazi, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you so much for hosting me.
Yes. You are welcome. You're welcome. You can go now. Bye, Vivian.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. So guys, thank you so much again for joining us. That was Vivian Coxinger Batcher and Batcher, and so Batcher. Why am I calling her Batcher? But she's running for state representative in Massachusetts. So she has a huge dream. You heard all the things that she stands for, things that she's looking to bring to the table. If you are new again here, please don't forget to subscribe for such amazing interviews. I promise, like every weekend at least, to be bringing you one interview of a person, people, company, group that is inspiring to us, that is empowering, that is encouraging. So Make sure you subscribe, have your bell button on so that you don't miss any of these amazing interviews and any other videos that I post. Continue to reach out to me if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions of other things that you'd love me to be bringing to the table, to this show. I will appreciate your feedback. Any other feedback is amazingly welcome. So feel free to reach out to me on my Gmail account, or you can leave me a comment in one of the videos after you've watched. Of course, leave me a comment with your suggestion, and I'll definitely get back to you, or I'll put it in practice. Again, thank you for everybody who joined us. December Business, I see you. For Divine, I see you. Gerard's Fitness, I see you. Mr. Roland, I see you. My Ugandan community, my African community, my American community. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.